Welcome back from the break. The bar is set high today because we were just treated to an 8-7 comeback on the side of Rent Free going up against LG. But we've got another good one coming up right now. It's going to be One Shot taking on Elyssar. One Shot had a good day yesterday, Cookies. They were 1-0. Elyssar, unfortunately, were 0-1, but it's early. Let's talk about One Shot.
It's very early. It's Playday 2. It's Sunday. NVK, Razor, and Prod are from Xset. I think they are doing good things for this one-shot roster. You also have Necrocious. He is coaching this one-shot roster. This is like an EG Xset conglomeration added with young talent in Kilo and Swalen. It's a winning combination of players that can perhaps cause problems. They just beat the brakes off of that LG team that we just watched. They handled business against them yesterday, and they're looking to do the same thing today against another contending team in Elyssar. Of course, Kilo is... I don't even know what to say about Kilo at this point. He's been in CL for like 3 years. He's been solid throughout most of these 3 years, playing with all different types of people. What more can I say? He's our highlight player for today. But of course, One Shot has a lot of highlightable players. You're going to find that out as we watch this matchup.
Mm-hmm. And Elyssar, although they're 0-1, Connor, that loss is Rent Free, who just seems to be the front runners out of nowhere. And also, it was close. It was a 7-5 matchup, and it could have gone either way.
Yeah, and the biggest thing about Elyssar is that you almost look at the names that are about to flash up on the screen and think, hey, guess what? This team is a little bit too big to fail. It's star-studded. You got former Pro League players in the form of Young Alec and Wimpy. And this isn't saying like, oh yeah, these are former pros from like 5 million years ago, like Butters. This is a Wimpy and Young Alec who, in the last 2 stages, have that NAL experience, both with Beast Coast as well as Parabellum. Plus, you have Vivid, Giddy, and Enrio, the dynamic trio that has been together for so incredibly long that they have just an overall play style and a constant success through all stages of Challenger League that they've ever competed in. You have to think that, hey, this team is going to be good. And sure, Young Alec last stage didn't have that great of a stage. But guess what? They had Kento. And guess what? Now that Kento goes up to Mirage, it seems like all those kills that were getting stolen by Young Alec are all of a sudden returning back to his plate, and he's eating up a huge rating. He was actually solid on the entry game. And overall, LSR is stepping in the right direction, but they're still just a little bit, they're slightly off kind of sync, and they still have things to work with.
The thing I love most about this stage, and especially this year, is it just seems that we're seeing so many role changes, and it's really benefiting teams. I don't really think we've seen a team where there's been role changes and it hasn't really worked out. It does seem to be working for a lot. Now, One Shot, impressive day, but they need to continue it. What are your thoughts on them, Cookies?
Impressive day, as you said, yes. Very much so, critically. But let's talk about it. Razor has always been this early round guy, no matter what op he's playing. I explicitly remember this guy on Wamai. You'd just be walking around like you'd think Wamai's like an anchor op or something. Like not when Razor's playing
No.
it. Razor's so funny. And the thing is, he's so talented, but it's also like in a way that it's like against the grain of team play. And that's one of the biggest criticisms of him going back to when he was on even Mirage. You know, hey, he's just kind of playing for himself. He's just kind of running around early round, but it works at this level of play. It doesn't work at tier 1 potentially, but it works here. I think that's something that they're going to have to rely on. Mr. Daps, I'm sure you would agree.
Yes, 100% rely on Razor in the early round, especially because Elyssar was kind of struggling with it just a little bit. There was the void of Kento leaving, who had like 50 million entry engagements, Young Alec not really getting involved early, which now he has stepped up just a little bit. But there's the other thing, CJ, that they shouldn't rely on. They should not rely on the clutch factor, even though they have it. It's like a good safety net. They had like 3 or 4 massive clutches that won them the game against Luminosity yesterday on Chalet. So kind of got to make sure that those clutches are a bit more rare. They aren't an every round occurrence. And now as we switch over to the side of Elyssar, we can kind of see where their off sync that I was alluding to early was, CJ, where it almost was hard to determine where their pacing and where their tempo was. It was that they wanted to go fast, kind of, especially on the defense side. Even if they were on shields, they would still peak. And then on attack, they didn't really do a whole lot. And it's like a weird transitionary period between trying to catch up with the meta of more aggressive style, but still it's like Vivid is fighting the reins, being the IGL, saying, hey, we still need to play slow and steady like the old Siege.
Yeah, and I talked about it yesterday. Vivid's also juggling roles, like in terms out of the game as well. He's trying to coach him up. He's trying to watch the VODs. I'm sure Vivid was up until 4 a.m. today trying to watch the VODs, figure out what went wrong and why people were walking in front of angles and dying to Dexter. Well, they better figure it out going into today, because we just talked about how Razor is. Razor's basically Dexter. It's the same stuff. He will kill you if you are careless. Elyssar's got to find that balance. Part of that balance is the map. You like that transition? I'm sorry.
But if it's not Tanner, it's you. Come on, man. I have a job to do. Come on.
I had to take the opportunity. It was a biblical opportunity I'm taking. Okay, Connor. Actually, I want you to talk about the maps because I get sick of talking about them.
Well,
God, you're gonna steal my throw to maps. No, you're gonna steal my throw to Connor. Come on, man.
See, that's what I was gonna say. Not only just stealing Brim's job, now you're stealing my stoic silence where I just get to sit here. Now, Villa Skyscraper, they're gone from the side of Elyssar, and as well as the theme park that they kind of struggled on. Right there, the one-shot ban of Cafe is ringing a little bit of an alarm bell in my head, because one-shot's always been incredibly strong on that map, especially Swaylin, especially Kilo. And I'm sure, just the former pros could all kind of fit themselves in here. But as the decider went down to Chalet and Bank, it's actually one shot to not choose the Chalet that they looked incredibly great on yesterday to go to a Bank against Elyssar, who has looked good on Bank in previous iterations of the roster.
Could this be, now that we're finally seeing teams as they see this year play out, Connor, that they don't want too many VODs on any one map? They want to change things up. Like you said, they look good on Chalet, but maybe they want to keep it that way. Maybe they just want to, leave as little out there hanging as possible.
I think it's also rough because just every game matters and it's BO1. So if you have the opportunity to go to a map that you're really good on, and especially a map that Elyssar and past iterations, all going all the way back to investigation file and late registration, haven't looked good on Chalet. Have lost to the likes of Outlast on Chalet. I think I don't necessarily know the direction that One Shot was going in their map ban phase, but hopefully Necrox and the rest of the crew knows a little bit better than me. And, there's so much that has changed behind the scenes that we're not privy to. We don't know their scrim results on Bank. Maybe they have a nasty Bank, probably because they picked it. No team is going to make a stupid decision that purposely shoots themselves in the foot.
Well, Cookies, based on, we'll see our predictions here, kind of based on what Connor said, though, you have times where, your map ban phase is thrown off because you think and you're certain that one team is just going to start banning a certain direction, and then they don't, and then you're kind of caught flat-footed wondering, okay, wait, hold on, what are we banning here? Because they're doing what we were going to do, so do we do what we thought they were going to do?
You just blew my mind. I think there's smoke coming out of my ears.
Mapception.
With how tetrahedron dimension, whatever you just said was. But I'll tell you this, Brim. I don't know why we all picked One Shot. I don't know why this keeps happening. But I'm also gonna keep my vote on One Shot because Elyssar just seems like they're in a transitionary period right now. This team got, I'm gonna say it, they got gutted. Mirage did them dirty, and right now they're in a position where they're just trying to. What the hell are we doing with what we have? They're trying to do the best with what they have, and then One Shot is looking poised to win a championship right now. It seems like they've added championship pieces. I love Slippery; he's a great dad, but Razor is exactly what that team needed. I think they needed someone who's consistent, sort of just killer, Terminator, an action player that isn't a Kilo on support, for example, or Swaylin on a flex role. It's going to be someone else carrying the torch for them, and that's kind of what they needed to edge them over the top, and I think we'll edge them over in this matchup for sure.
Now, both these teams, Connor, featuring a lot of players with a lot of experience, but I mean, if you are going to come down to experience, obviously One Shot just takes the edge there.
Oh yeah, for sure. They have 3 former pros while Elyssar only has 2. And then the former pro coach on the side of One Shot. Yeah, we have 5 former pros within the last year, which is crazy and very, very interesting.
Mhm.
So, Challenger League, everybody. North American Challenger League.
Well,
We're already on Playday 2.
NA at the pro scene has been doing so well over the course of the last year. It's no surprise that all of a sudden that talent is trickling down, I'd say trickling back down into CL because, you know, there's an overabundance right now. And guess what? We get to enjoy all the benefits of that. Cookies, I think we're just about ready to go. Any final thoughts before we get into it?
No. I
Nope.
think One Shot's going to win.
Okay.
That's
I
my
like
thoughts.
that. I like that. Well, we knew you thought that. It was in the predictions. Anyways, let's get right into it. We are going to get into our second matchup. One Shot taking on Elyssar. We're going right back to Bank.
Jonah, I got to agree with all those one-shot votes. I mean, obviously I do. I voted one shot. But Elyssar, I mean, after looking really good a couple stages past his investigation file, looking good in the beginning of last stage and taking a dip, and then that first game against Rent Free, they've lost a lot of confidence in us.
Yeah,
Other way around.
lost our vote of confidence, that's for sure. Where it's hard to go into a match like this with One Shot coming off of yesterday's victory, and hard to throw your vote towards Elyssar. Really is. One Shot are looking good, and heading to a map like Bank, still a lot of questions that we don't have the answers to, especially coming into a new stage with a couple of new players, but it really is going to come down to how these teams duke it out, right? Again, we see a lot of situations where that transitive property of Siege, like we call it, doesn't always work out. If Elyssar loses to a team, then, you know, One Shot beats that same team. That doesn't necessarily mean that One Shot are going to be the victors here, but we'll get to that in a bit. Right now, we'll focus on our operator bans. We don't have the Osa ban like we saw earlier. Instead, it is the Nook, but it is also the Hibana on the attacking side.
Of course, Hibana being one of the premier hard breach bans on this map because of how much hatch play there is. Hibana just makes that so much easier, so we'll likely see a lot of Thermite, a lot of Ace be played. Thatcher also being left up, so whether or not we see a Maverick is another toss-up. Really depends on what the teams are feeling. Valkyrie we saw banned in the previous game, but now Aruni is back on the board, not being played just yet. Maestro is banned instead, an operator that used to get banned quite a bit, but is now, you know, more than happy to be left in. His influence has definitely dipped a bit, but I guess One Shot figuring that he's too powerful on Bank. They can't leave him up. They'll go down to lockers, bringing a much more bunker-heavy style of defense than we saw at all in the last match with LG and Rent Free. They've got that Warden to sit down below just in case there's any smoke coverage. He brings an extra shield along with Kilo. Cade to cover hatches because there's no Maverick on the board, which I'm looking for Elyssar to swap to. If they don't take a Maverick or a Thatcher, they're going to be in for a lot of trouble.
Yeah, with so much of this utility focus on the defense, we'll have to see what Elyssar do to counter it. Young Alec...
It's a Ying instead.
Yeah, not going to the Thatcher, going to the Ying, which, I mean, has a lot of explosive potential in terms of how quickly we could see this execute come through, or really just all they need, theoretically, is a doorway, one opening, and they can blitz their way on in, but the Maverick will certainly help all of their troubles. They can work their way around that electricity denial in the form of those Kaid claws. They can maybe work their way around with that breaching torch. They will have to work their way through NVK on those Kiva barriers, though, and then is using one of those Kiva barriers to just straight up block Dirt Tunnel, really from being an option that the attackers have at all, at the very least, forcing Elyssar to expend additional utility if they want to clear out that position. But that's going to come in a little bit later. Right now, looks like Elyssar, they want to clear out this entire map. They'll start from the top and they'll work their way down.
I like that Kiva on Dirt because that way, you know, if you have to leave there eventually, no one's going to come in sneaky. You'll be able to get a sound call off of it. Razor with a nice little perch on the top of those stairs. Gets a very early kill. And who is that, Jonah? It's the Ying. No more Ying. The operator swap that we saw, that we thought would be oh so influential in the round with her smokes, with her candelas, punching a hole into the site, being that wedge that allows Elyssar through. She goes down without a single bit of utility spent. So absolutely no use of the Ying whatsoever. At the very least, Wimpy is on Maverick, so they'll be able to get any of these electrified hatches open still. Losing that Ying is it's a killer blow.
It's a killer blow, and a blow that Elyssar weren't even able to recover from within the next 15 seconds. I mean, generally, you'd like to see that attacking team find a quick trade, get some intel off the back of that kill. But immediately after finding that kill, Razor, he can, tuck tail and run back to the site. He can sit comfortably down below, and he doesn't have to worry about being traded out until later. Elyssar, their priority right now is getting these hatches open and starting to pressure the site downstairs, but it's only now happening as we cross that minute mark, and they're down a body. They're not going to be sitting pretty for quite some time. They've also got to deal with Swaylin, who not only has a shotgun, but he has a Kiba barrier right in his face to protect top blue. Prod collects a kill as he swings onto Giddy, the sledge who's been taken care of as well. And with 45 seconds to play, 3 nades left in pocket, and a dwindling amount of utility, and now dwindling HP, it is Elyssar against the world.
Not sure how Giddy died. I would have to assume on the hatch. Swaylin gets shoved back, but the nade actually downs Inrio. Swaylin cleans up the kill. Vivid drops the hatch into server, comes up behind him, but it's too little too late. 20 seconds remaining. 2 gas canisters still for Kilo, a C4 for Prod. There should be no chance in hell for Elyssar to get this bomb down. Vivid's going over towards the hatch, looking to maybe flash and drop, but Prod's covering. That's an easy frag onto Vivid. Wimpy gets the trade, sure, but still 3 bodies to find and only 5 seconds to do it. One shot, take the first round with ease.
Yeah, it was going to take a heck of a comeback at that point for Elyssar to get much of anything going. I mean, losing 1 player is fine. Losing 2 players is recoverable. But then losing a 3rd with your own nade as you tried to push top blue, at that point, that's curtains for the round. Really good use of those Kiba barriers from NVK, not only in his own position, but bolstering the position of his teammates. Top blue, using that to force Elyssar attackers to do one of 2 things, right? Or one of 3 things, I suppose. Ignore that position, but that's too risky. Force your way in by crouching or proning under the Kiba barrier. Again, too risky, and instead it just forces them to use a grenade that can no longer be used to force those defenders back, to prevent any swings from coming through when you're actually going for that execute, or simply getting a kill. That's well played all around by One Shot, not only just in terms of that utility game, but as we saw, in terms of the fragging potential as well. Everyone contributing and really putting up some good numbers.
Now One Shot will go to open area. Again, like I said, a lot more popular nowadays after the rework of Bank. Treated mostly as a secondary site. One Shot on very different operators this time, though. Bringing an Echo, a Castle, and Oryx as well for Razor, giving him a lot more maneuverability. Both the Smoke and the Echo combo is coming out to ensure that, again, it's going to be very difficult for Elyssar to get that case down. But luckily, there is no Cade to worry about. They don't need a Thatcher. They don't need a Maverick. They can free up what they were originally going to play. Young Alec on the Ace for double hard breach. Wimpy on 0 for even more hard breach and that flank watch potential. Surprising that we're not seeing a Nomad at all, but Zero does have technically more capability. He gets 4 cams rather than the 2 air jabs, and if Elyssar are putting emphasis on that hard breach, then Zero is the obvious pick.
The emphasis for Elyssar, at least in the early round, will need to be on dealing with these roamers. You can get that hard breach in a bit later. Your priority has to be dealing with this extra pressure that One Shot are forcing you to clear out. NVK is one of these players. Razor as well on the Oryx, positioned in elevator. He can always drop down, drop up the hatch anytime he feels it's necessary. And NVK, well, his only avenue of escape is just the old-fashioned way, down the stairs. He'll take that route of escape, so will Razor, as the pressure upstairs becomes a little bit too much to bear for them. And they're not looking to lose lives early, taking minimal risks here as we cross that minute 40 mark, making sure that even if Elyssar take that control, they don't get any kills around it.
There hasn't been any engagements. Like you said, One Shot being very passive, ensuring that Elyssar don't have any opportunities. Giddy will nearly take damage from a C4, but he gets out in time. Kilo, though, ends up being our first casualty. Vivid the Thermite gets the opening kill, and that's a C4 off the board. Not necessarily an operator you want to lose early, much rather lose an Oryx or a Castle before that Mute, whose utility is still in pocket and could end up denying that plant. Luckily, you've still got, again, plant denial in spades because of smoke and echo. Prod, actually, I just noticed Prod, curiously enough, taking impacts rather than a shield. Impacts that he hasn't used, which I have to assume is a, maybe a misclick. Razor, the next body to fall as he dies to Wimpy, holding down that flank as Zero. We saw Asian do it. We saw, oh, who was playing it? I think we saw Filthy do it on Rent Free, and now we're seeing Wimpy. NVK. Looks like he's going to be the first fight that the attackers take. Tucked right behind one of those cubicles, but one of the main walls goes down. Prod from the basement gets a kill through the hatch. NVK, a follow-up on that double door on the young Alec. No one actually behind that shield Vivid's distracted by. NVK goes down. Prod getting that trade. It's a 2 versus 2. Flashes come in from Vivid. He still thinks there's someone behind that shield, but no. Swalen's going to be able to pick up a freebie here. Case is dropped. Inrio trades. Prod, all he has to do is run away, and the time runs out. One shot, take 2 in a row.
Again, a back and forth duel on the site, but time management, that's the big thing for Elyssar. They simply did not have enough time to confidently push in those last few seconds and get that bomb down, because they couldn't, again, use all that intel, right? They couldn't take their time, take a moment to breathe and look and identify where these final few defenders are positioned, and that's what got them into so much trouble. It's all of a sudden, a smoke is swinging you didn't know was there. All of a sudden, the diffuser is dropped and out of pocket, and you've got to pull off a miracle. Even if you find that trade, you still got one more player to find, and we saw the result in the round end, well, as you might have expected in that kind of situation. So Elyssar, the first one, not so good. The second one, real close in terms of winning it. But again, these little things that they're going to have to work on and make sure that they stay consistent on throughout the round if they want to have a better hope of taking it. This site, though, should be the site that they have the best chance on yet. In terms of time management, there's no map to clear. You just have to work your way directly into this top floor, maybe clearing out a position or two, but not the whole map in terms of this top floor bomb site.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to attack this top floor. You can go for a lobby side take and going through square. Sometimes we even see teams go solely for window pressure. That's all you attack from. You get the windows, clear a few positions out, swing in, get that plant down. Sometimes we even see bottom up. Judging by the Ying, I would assume this is going to be a lot of window pressure. Would be starting off in main lobby, maybe playing for that kind of Nook-style late flank. You see young Alec already setting up on those windows with Giddy right below him. Castle barricades on those windows as well. No Azami is definitely strange, especially from what we saw in the previous match, but I guess they are incentivizing that Warden, especially because Elyssar are bringing that Ying so often.
Well, a lurk down below, all the way in the basement from Kilo. And as tactical and sneaky as he might think he's being, he has been identified by Giddy, the Finka who's positioned over on blue stairs. He has been able to find a route to escape, though. Kilo's been able to work his way up main and now work his way into another one of these attackers, Inrio, who's sitting close and open. Again, Kilo staying patient. But instead of going all the way up and retreating to guaranteed safety, he puts himself in peril by staying involved down below. He does have some support by NVK, who can use this balcony position to assist these players coming in the main lobby, but if he's not careful, Kilo may not be able to get back to the site later in this round.
Zero cams proving useful. 2 different ones spotting out NVK. Looked like Giddy was going to go for the play, but Ruby calls him off of it. Instead, it's young Alec with the lead-off kill onto Razor. Wamai dead, though it's pretty late in the round, so not terrible. Most of those, if not all of those magnets, are probably out by now. Swainland takes a lot of damage. Giddy being pressured by Kilo, who is still in the basement. wasting a bit of time from Elyssar. Looking to come up for a C4 later in the round once Elyssar go for that execute. Young Alec is still on the windows, trying to play with his LMG, trying to open up an opportunity to use his Candelas, but it's going to be dangerous with Swaylin still on the board and still in Janitor as the Warden. More teammates come up to swarm top square on those windows. They repel in. One Candela goes out. That'll open up the opportunity to exothermic charge the wall for Vivid, opening up that default wall, allowing an avenue into sight. Inrio's the first attacker down, finished off by Kilo. Nice pick off from Swaylin. Drops Vivid on top square, drops Case as well. Young Alec trades. Wimpy follows it up. The Warden's now gone, but Young Alec's out of Candelas. No more wedge. They'll have to swing in dry. Feet being spotted, but it's not enough. Giddy gets C4'd from below. There's Kilo once again finding a late kill. Wimpy's on the floor thanks to the flank, and Young Alex alone getting that plant down. He gets off of it, and the time runs out. One shot win the round by the grace of good sight play and a well-timed flank from Kilo.
Yeah, by the grace of Kilo, I'll just say it. I mean, that was an unusual way to play that basement lurk, being, I guess, how persistent he was in that position. But I guess Kilo got exactly what he was hoping for. The chance to roam free and stay completely undisturbed. Elyssar made the choice, and this was a conscious choice on their part, not to force him out. They knew he was there almost from the word go. About 30 seconds in, they had identified his position, but at no point did they take the fight to him. Instead, they were hoping just to hold the choke points, have a couple of flank cams up, have a couple of flank watchers keeping an eye on those rotations. But never did Kilo put himself in death's grip. He stayed just out of reach of players like Inrio and Giddy, who were in open area or top square, respectively, and he avoided them nice enough that he could go for the late game flank, getting several kills as he worked his way back up, not only with that SMG, but with a C4 as well, proving clutch, despite how close it came. That is 3 in a row for one shot.
It's been well played so far, even if the last one did come very close. And Elyssar they've been punished by time now 3 rounds in a row. Jonah, remember when this team was Investigation File? We always talked about them being too slow and always relying on their floods and not getting a lot of early picks, which caused a lot of downfall. And then they got better when they picked up Kento, when they picked up Young Alec. We're a much swifter team, but like CJ said, the loss of Kento seems to be hurting. They've slowed down quite a bit again.
Young Alec, he wants to get in the building right away to alleviate the problem, just like you mentioned, Harrison, of that speed. They want to just get in this top floor and prevent one shot from going through any more pesky roams, any pesky lurks. It's not going to happen on Elyssar's watch anymore. The thing is, one shot aren't going to contest this at all. You've got 4 players, all 5 in fact, visible on that basement site or slightly extended on a staircase. Nobody, even for a moment, tried to contest that top floor. Obviously, that means that Elyssar have all the map control in the world. It also means they've got 9 drones still to play with, but it still means that one shot also have all of that defensive prowess on the site with them. The difference is, without those Kiva barriers, in theory, Elyssar should be able to move in a little bit quicker, but like you said, a well-placed Electro Claw may have changed that.
One hard breach charge down. They do have a Maverick, so they could avoid it. Prod taking some shots from the pre-fire through the wall by Giddy as well, seeing as how that's where Prod killed him from last time. You see Wimpy's Maverick torch slowly going down in fuel. He's working to open up that hatch just to supplement Young Alec. So luckily they have that redundancy when it comes to the hard breach. Losing one, not so big a deal. What is a big deal, though, is that they're just now trying to clear out blue with a minute left, and they will do so swiftly. The nade, followed up by the swing from Inrio, gets the first pick on to Swaylin, so that opens up opportunity for Elyssar. Still got to take out NVK. Candela goes out. Omai is full blind, but there's no push from Elyssar just yet. They'll get the ping, they'll get the kill. Inrio finds a double, and now they can set up with 35 seconds remaining. Kilo still with all his gas, sending the first one out, and Prod still with a C4.
Yeah, they've got a lot of utility. The problem is they simply don't have the bodies to allocate to this position if the pressure from Elyssar overwhelms them, and here it comes. They're just going to try to brute force their way in with these Candelas, with Vivid and Inrio at the breach. The thing is, these Candelas have gone off, and no push followed it up. That's wasted utility, but with all these bodies, they can just send it in the sight and hope to win their duels. Here goes Vivid. That C4 misses. The smoke not ticking away. And with Kilo getting one kill, it simply doesn't matter. The diffuser going down. It's going to have to be a 3v4 retake for the side of One Shot. Prod doesn't know which angle to hold. He knows somebody's behind the table, but he also knows the hatch is being staffed. Razor doesn't have an easy avenue to push in or push up above, so he'll have to take the time to join his teammate up top if they want to go for that retake. If not, they've got to find some kills, and they are running out of time. They've been sitting still, hoping for opportunities that simply aren't coming. Kilo, he goes the long way around and is able to get one down, but it simply doesn't matter. He was out of time anyway. Elyssar finally find an attacking round.
And it comes again at the dying seconds, largely off the back of a good adjustment by Vivid. You had mentioned that the Candelas were coming through, and it seemed like that was when Elyssar were going to make the big play, but there was no capitalization off of it. It was just a Candela, I guess, to make some semblance of space for just a second while the gas canister whittled away. But at the end, Vivid was forced to go for that execute. They had no time remaining. Gas goes off. He starts choking. And what does he do? He doesn't back off. He moves forward. Behind the bomb chassis, starts planting. The C4 goes wide. And that's pretty much the round right there. Prod had no idea where that plant was going down. Vivid gets it. And Elyssar simply clean up after that with those far post-plant positions. One Shot were forced to retake, and it seemed like Elyssar had all the info on the world on them. So, well done to Elyssar to finally take their first round, but it does come on round 4. One Shot are going back to open area, and if One Shot just take one more round, Elyssar lose their attacking half, which is big on Bank.
Yeah, we've seen that Bank tends to be attacker-sided, and if you were just watching our previous matchup, you would have seen it heavily favor the attacking side. But One Shot seemed to be putting together a pretty strong defensive effort, and Elyssar have been able to find one. The question is, can they find a couple more? If they can tie us up at 3, honestly, if they can get one more round, I think it is within their right to keep us close, to even send us to overtime. But One Shot, 1 more, 2 more rounds especially, would really look like they've already secured it. But you never know. This could be a defensive-sided Bank. But as Elyssar try to work their way in up top, it's just a matter of time before they run into some one-shot resistance. Razor, though, instead of contesting this head-on, he will rotate away, using that Rima dash to get through the wall and sneak down below to help the rest of his team.
I don't quite know what the full plan is here for Elyssar. They are rather separated. Some coming up from top square, or rather Young Alec already in the building. I guess making way for Giddy to get in and start using that skeleton key rather than the sledge. I guess figuring that One Shot have C4 presence, which they did with Kilo, but it missed. So I guess sledge versus Buck not really mattering too much anymore. They also had Wimpy setting up by main lobby, droning himself in. So again, it seems like Wimpy is that player tasked with the Nook-esque role of the late flank, at least in the early round. That's what he's setting up to do. Sometimes he adjusts away from it, but it's typically consistent as to his starting position. But as Young Alec charges towards the main stairs, Kilo's there waiting for him. He gets the lead off on the Ace, who has not used any of his hard breach yet.
Yeah, that's a big early kill. Young Alec not going to be able to make an impact in round 5. Still have Vivid, though. Still have some other hard breach, so it's not out of the question for them to open up that quad wall or establish some pressure up above on that hatch if they're looking to do that. but not having young Alec is certainly going to be a hindrance for the remainder of this one, especially given that One Shot aren't just sitting on the site. A couple of extended positions are now going to be a little bit tougher to get a handle on, especially if Razor utilizes his abilities to jump up and down that hatch to work his way around the map with such speed and such grace. The thing is, it looks like he has been spotted. He's going to try to give himself another avenue to get out of here, but now he's the one who's been trapped. With Swaylin taken care of, he knows he's got to get back. You lose Kilo, and now Elyssar can begin this push.
There is a trade from Prod before Inrio, again, a refrag. Triple kill on the round for him. Wimpy holding on the main stairs. NVK cut down. That leaves Razor in the basement. Hatches are open. One Shot are probably watching them. The plant, though late, is successful. And now Razor's stuck in the retake. He'll send some shots through, damage Wimpy, but now Elyssar know exactly where he is. And Razor couldn't get a surprise kill off. That makes his job all the more difficult. Now crossing the doorway, Inrio aware of it. 4 kills on the round for Iana, starting off with 2 nade kills and 2 with his gun. Elyssar now bring us within striking distance of One Shot.
All right, if you think back to round 3 with Kilo running all over the basement and kind of wreaking havoc on that Elyssar attack, what we saw in round 5 was the concern I had for Kilo's play, right? Same example, same situation. You've got one player, in this case it was Razor, off the site, dipping and dodging around the map, trying to be a nuisance. But Elyssar avoided him, much like they did in round 3. And this time, they didn't dilly-dally when it came to that execute. They were able to take care of everyone on the site. And at that point, because Razor was so far extended, he couldn't get back in time to do much of anything. In fact, he wasn't able to support any of his teammates as they fell to their deaths. And then he found himself in a 1 versus 3. And really no options after the bomb had gone down. That's why those plays are so high risk yet high reward in a situation like that. Because again, one player off site, can they really make much of an impact? It's just a matter of time and just a matter of can the attacking team get a handle on them or not. But we're headed back to round 6. We're headed back to the basement site, so there can be no running down below the site because that's where we're starting.
I like the decision to go back to lockers, figuring, hey, you know what, CEO wasn't solid, really came down super close in the previous round. Hey, if that C4 just hits, it's a completely different round. The point is that Elyssar way late on their execute, even if it did work out. NVK with a misthrow on the Azami. Sometimes it's a little tricky to land exactly where you want it. Of course, the Azami will always go out perpendicular to the surface, or sorry, parallel to the surface on which you throw it. It'll always stick out flat. So, you know, nice little tip if you're unaware completely how her gadget works, and that's why NVK's did not quite work. He caught it on the side of the opening on dirt, because he just wanted to get it as far over as he could. So he does waste a barrier, but he does have 3 more still in pocket, so not the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah, he still has enough to reposition and relocate to help any one of his teammates. Interesting that he's choosing to keep them in pocket for now. We're seeing him rip out another one and likely go to place it by Swaylin's position, but it's possible that he's waiting to get a handle on where Elyssar are approaching from. Then he can more accurately place those barriers and at least have those barriers make more of an impact on the round. You see him hesitating before actually sending this one to top blue, maybe waiting for Elyssar to make the move to really prove that that is exactly where they're pushing from. But now that that square hatch has been opened, NVK will step up. He sends one Kiba barrier on the hatch itself, the other to top blue. And Razor, again, who's hunting for these early picks, is just not able to make that impact with young Alec dealing with him swiftly.
It looked like that may have been through the hatch. Either that or watching the main stairs flank. Either way, opening pick goes the way of Elyssar, like NVK's use of the Kiba barriers, locking the hatches down, making sure that Elyssar don't have an easy angle through said hatch, also making sure they can't drop it without being spotted. I think if you land on the Kiba, it will break, but again, it will delay your drop, and it will make it so that the defenders will likely be able to hear you. Inrio is able to drop his clone in, though. Swiftly dealt with by NVK, who has now used his last Kiba. Flash is going in. There's players to Swaylin's back, but they're not going to push him just yet. They allow him to get away. He gets 1 and 2 kills! All he needed to do was be pushed from behind by Vivid, But Vivid's hesitation ends up leading to 2 deaths on the side of Elyssar. Luckily, Wimpy's there to amend the mistake. Coming from Garage Lake, kills NVK in red. It's Kilo and Prod. The 2 last operators you want in this situation. Armed with gas canisters and C4 against 3, with the time running low, but Vivid gets deep in the site. Prod equalizes the man count, but the plant is going down. The C4 is far too late. Vivid is successful, though refragged, and Giddy's alone. 1v2 post, and he can't win the fight on Prod! Prod clutches up the round! 3 kills for Prod.Big, and One Shot go up 4-2 at the half.
2 huge moments in that round, Harrison. Obviously, the double shotgun kill top blue is a big one. You mentioned Vivid hesitating, not getting involved when he should have, and that's really what led to that error. But the second play, because again, it wasn't over then. The second play was Wimpy and Prod winning the gunfight against Wimpy. Definitely, Elyssar found themselves in a power position when Wimpy got that kill, because One Shot, that was probably a what is he doing there moment, where they had no idea that somebody was in garage, because the Red Hall player should not have been exposed to that position if so. But somehow, Wimpy on the prone angle, staring at Red Hall, staring at lockers, Prod is able to win that duel. That allows him to swing the angle, throw that C4 out, and take the fight. Something that would not have been possible had Wimpy still been alive. A couple of clutch kills and key moments for One Shot to survive in that round, because it certainly felt like Elyssar had the advantage on several different occasions. But now we switch. We're on a different half now, Harrison, and so those lessons we've been talking about, the lessons we've learned, we can kind of toss them aside and focus on Elyssar and how they're going to be able to mount a defensive comeback.
Speaking of defensive comeback, their lineup is very different from what we were seeing from One Shot. One Shot were much closer to the chest, relying a lot more on their anchor play, which was successful more often than not when it came to their basement site. But Elyssar are the exact opposite. Mute, Mozzie, Castle, a roam through and through, extending all the way to the top floor. They are meeting One Shot as soon as they enter that building. Elyssar obviously looking for these fights. Bank, you can't, I mean, you can play a fallback strategy and just poke and prod at the attack, but it's not typically what we see. A lot of times, roamers on Bank will opt for those gunfights. One roamer, looks like he's tucked up in elevator. Yeah, that's going to be Wimpy, and as soon as he's droned out, though, he drops the hatch where young Alec is waiting, assisted by that castle barricade, ensuring the rotate is safe. Inrio as well, falling back to open area where Giddy is waiting. So now 4 different players on that first floor as they swiftly give up top.
Yeah, not looking to contest this attack too heavily. Something we saw from Elyssar, rather from One Shot on their defensive side, just playing it safer and falling back to the site expeditiously. They'll do the same thing as One Shot take this control. Now that One Shot know they have the top floor secured, they can transition to the first floor and begin to force Inrio and Wimpy out of position. But that's going to be the harder part, because these players, well, they had a C4 in position, and what I thought would be a difficult clear is made rather easy now that Inrio has been taken care of and Wimpy is alone. Not likely to staff that position if he doesn't have support from a teammate.
That's a very nice shot from NVK. That's going to start forcing Giddy and Wimpy back towards the hatch. Both of them sitting on it and waiting, and they both soon drop. So full site control now for the defense. Everyone has defaulted back. Someone just over the hatch. I believe that's the Finka of Razor, who has not been doing too hot. He's only 1 in 5 on this game so far. Stark difference from his performance yesterday, but of course he still has plenty of time to pick it up and have the performance that we all know he's capable of. He's still got 2 nades as well. So does NVK. Got conserved all their explosives through this clear so they can go ahead and deal with the shield from Vivid. Maybe find some kills with the nades as well. Default wall now being opened. The other left soft, meaning that Kilo does not need to waste an exothermic charge on it. We'll go for a very early plant attempt. Send out one of those toxic gas canisters from Vivid. My worry here, Jonah, is that Vivid only has 2 left. There's no C4 presence at all from Elyssar. Nade goes in, gas canister answers. Kilo takes a lot of damage, and it seems like these gas canisters are being perfectly spaced out, but there's the drop. I don't know what just happened, but Swaylin and Razor just got 3 kills out of literally nowhere. Now it's young Alec alone in a 1 versus 5. What looked like it was going to be a hard-fought battle between the planter and the smoke was swiftly amended by the Finca.
A hard-fought battle that it looked like Elyssar were winning, right? I mean, those smokes were perfectly timed, like you mentioned, Harrison. Kilo was getting torn apart by the toxic gas, and One Shot, they knew that they needed something dramatic to break that rhythm, to break that smoke and planter exchange. And they did. They dropped the hatch. They sent it in from up above, surprising the players in Red Hall and collecting, back-to-back-to-back kills. That was big, of course, because they killed the smoke, but because they collected enough kills that it simply didn't matter if another smoke had gone off and dropped Kilo down. They could have either hunted for that last frag with most of those attackers still alive, or had somebody recover that bomb and get it down. Those are the kind of late-round adjustments that a team like One Shot pulls out pretty regularly. We talk about the One Shot timeout all the time, how they like to take a timeout, regroup, and change something up, how potent that can be. But don't forget, they don't even need a timeout to fully regroup. They take a couple of seconds, they decide something's not working, and they make a change on the spot. That's what we just saw there in round number 7. It worked for them well enough to keep their lead at 3 rounds.
That was a crazy round in the middle there. And I had just said Razor not doing too hot, and then he drops into the site and gets 3 kills. So well done to Razor. There we go. If we want someone to do well, I just have to talk trash about them. We're heading down to open area now. Elyssar clearly not wanting to try that site again. Still bringing a bit of a roaming lineup, only instead of a Mozzie, they've got the Azami, Echo being brought out as well. Young Alec flexing onto Oryx, so a lot of swaps for Elyssar. Of course, be roaming on that top floor, trying to hold it down as long as possible against the likes of Razor and Swaylin and NVK on that triple-headed entry, getting themselves into the building. In order to see Giddy feeling a little trapped in Janitor, thanks to the drones, thanks to those pre-fires, making holes in the wall. They've also spotted out the Oryx in stock, so a lot of good info for One Shot, and that's going to force Alec.
Yeah, Alec can't hold that aggressive position, and I imagine Wimpy won't be able to do it either much longer as he tries to tuck behind those Kiba barriers. Right now, he's going to hold, though, because Giddy is still here. He hasn't dropped away. He's still holding Janitor, precariously, though, mind you, because One Shot have built up enough pressure, have enough intel, and now have opened that castle barricade to expose that position. But neither NVK nor Swaylin have actually moved in yet. They're waiting for some more support. They're waiting for some players to get an angle on Wimpy from behind, and that takes a good bit of time. 90 seconds now coming and going, and Wimpy is actually able to get the opener. Young Alec returns to the fight and takes down Swaylin from behind, and that already has One Shot in a bunch of trouble. Razor will get one back. But is that enough? Right now, they're still down a man, and with a minute 10 to work with, not fully cleared out of this top floor just yet either. Still a lot of work left to do.
There's a good resurgence on the top floor for Elyssar. Unfortunate for Wimpy, they're kind of getting timinged with his peak, but Razor able to claim 1 body back for his team. Prod on a lurk, just sneaking back, setting up a claymore just in case young Alec ends up popping up through the hatch. Nice little play there from Prod. Interesting that we have 2 different operators with claymores rather than the typical, hard breach charges that we see on a 0. But nevertheless, young Alec seeing the feet, tagging up Kilo, but it's actually Kilo to kill young Alec. Vivid got that kill. Very surprising. Inrio, not on the drones, must be destroyed. Razor gets the plant down for free. Inrio can't yet get the kill. He peeks out with an impact, but Razor finishes him off. Vivid and Giddy now have to retake in a 2 versus 2. Both the attackers trapped in the site, but both the members from Elyssar separated. They cannot play off refrag. They've got a shotgun from above. Giddy will make holes, see if he can spot anyone, but no one from the attack is exposing themselves, at least not yet. Vivid gets taken down. Giddy's now alone. He might have to just drop the hatch, but he drops right into the waiting arms of Razor and Prod. Razor ending up being credited with that kill, and One Shot go up 6-2, match point.
That is back-to-back triple kills from Razor right after you called him out, Harrison. Is that what we just saw?
Razor, I am so sorry. Please forgive me.
He really hit the level up. I mean, not only did he get a triple kill in back-to-back rounds, but in this round, he got a triple kill and he got the bomb down. unbelievable how he was able to sneak into that site and get that diffuser on the deck. Elyssar definitely missing an opportunity to stop that plant. I don't know where the call was and why we saw Inrio wait to swing Razor until after he had planted the bomb. It's possible he didn't hear Razor typing away. It's possible that those yokais were destroyed and nobody was watching them to give him that intel. But it probably wasn't a conscious decision when you do have one attacking player in the site, face staring at the ground, unable to fight back. Generally, as a defender, you take that fight if you can. Inrio a bit hesitant, and Razor going nuts. Now joining Kilo at the top frag, or rather, nearing Prod at the top frag of this team. Kilo and Razor with 7 each, Prod with 8 kills. But a lot of contributors over on the side of One Shot right now. And while things were looking up for Elyssar for a moment or two, their momentum has definitely slowed down, and it's another 6-2 lead that we're seeing today. This time it's One Shot, though, with that full round advantage.
They have 8 claymores. Sorry, I had an outburst while you were talking. I saw that and I was like, what?
It's a lot of claymores, especially when NBK could just bring hard breach charges.
NBK can bring hard breach charges. Prod could bring hard breach charges. Remember, Sense has them too. Kilo and Swaylin could both bring breaching charges if there was a castle in play, but there isn't. But I feel like 8 claymores is a bit excessive. They've used all of them.
What?
Holy crap. They really don't want to get run out on. Wow. This is the most dedication to anti-run out I've ever seen in my life. So 8 claymores from One Shot, 2 nades. They've got 2 Gons, right, in the pockets of Razor and NVK. Oh, Sense. I think Sense has a Gon 6 too, right?
That is a great question. I think they do.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have a Gon 6. So, I mean, hey, they've still got destructibility. They got a Zoda boot. Who am I to judge?
Well, even more impressive, I gotta say, is the speed with which they put the claymores down. I mean, that was 8 claymores in 40 seconds. 40 seconds, God. 8 claymores. But I digress.
5 seconds per claymore.
It's crazy. It's craziness. But One Shot, despite all the claymores, they haven't actually claimed a kill yet. They still have a lot of work to do in terms of entering on this top floor. They're not entering on this first floor yet either. Finally, Razor steps up, and he'll use this position in the main lobby to get an angle on those elevator players. I say players plural because 2 players are trapped in a 4x4 box right now, potentially awaiting death. One will drop down and wins the fight against the LMG. It's a pea shooter against an LMG, and Inrio somehow wins it, but NBK and Kilo, they come in clutch, and they get 2 kills right back. An important trade. Still another player in the elevator, by the way. It's young Alec, who went a bit unnoticed, and he claims another to trade us back to an even 3v3. Prod, though, on the Sense, spots the arm of the Wamai, and he finish him off? Not quite, and that's a big problem, because guess what? The diffuser is right in the Wamai's line of sight.
Elyssar clearly opting for the strategy of, they won't expect 2. And it works. They end up with the even man count, though this last player is a bit trapped and eventually finished off. Despite, I think, having the hatch open, Swaylin, in the meantime, has just made his way into sight. He gets Wimpy's only teammate, leaves the Jaeger alone. He doesn't win the fight against Kilo. Once again, the IGL for One Shot saves the day. And although it was a bit of a hectic round, Elyssar end up dropping the ball. One Shot win 7-2, not letting their lead slip away like for LG.
Yeah, the 6-2 lead, but it stays 6-2. In fact, stretches it to 7-2 to finish off the map. A much cleaner performance on Bake from One Shot than we saw from our previous series, but certainly not as exciting because Elyssar just could not put up much of a fight. We saw a couple of rounds where they had that potential, right? Where they won those 2 rounds, and there were a handful of others where they came really close. I think 3 other rounds, right? 5 total, where it really could have gone either way when it came down to the execute phase of the round. But what Elyssar needed to do was turn Bank into a crazy defensive-sided haven when they switched sides, and they simply weren't able to do that. One Shot stayed consistent, and they didn't let up off the gas, and that's the big thing.
Yeah, and not letting up off the gas is something that Elyssar have struggled to do the latter half of last stage, the beginning of this stage, they've slowed down tremendously. I don't know if it's just because of the loss of Kento. I don't know if maybe, it's the loss of Pedro as well, getting used to more different support staff, getting Wimpy still acclimated to the roster. Whatever it is, LSR are having struggles, and One Shot seem like they've returned to being on the come up. So remember, they were first place a couple stages ago, kind of fizzled out in playoffs. Didn't have as quite of a standout performance last stage, but they're certainly on track now. So congratulations to One Shot for taking their second win of the stage. But it's back to the analyst test to digest why is One Shot doing so well, and what can LSR do better?
There's definitely a few things that I think LSR can do better. And Connor, you were talking a bit about it while we were watching. They just don't seem comfortable in their roles. There's something that's not working for them right now. And it's not massive, but it's just not getting them to where they need to be.
Yeah, they're so incredibly close to putting everything together, because at the end of the day, this is an incredibly talented roster that I still think is a top 6 team. Like a guaranteed top 6 team. But with LSR playing right now, they are just struggling just that little bit. Wimpy's back on flank watch when he was playing second entry for so long on Parabellum and looked incredibly good. He's typically a flex, but he comes into a team that has Giddy on flex, and boom. You can't really take it away from Giddy. Everybody's role, even within this game, was going absolutely wild. We saw Wimpy on a little bit of Zero, a little bit of Lion, and then all of a sudden he was playing Zope LMG. It got to the point for LSR that on their attacks, when they were struggling so much, they just kind of threw everything to the wind, tried to just throw everything at the wall and hope something stuck.
Now, I mean, we seem to get the exact opposite on the side of One Shot Cookies. This is a team that round by round, they had players not just making plays, but making big plays. And it seemed to be everyone on the team was contributing in a massive way here or there, just stealing rounds.
Yeah, the big one, whatever Swaylin did on server, he was a menace on server stairs in this game. On that Warden, like they only actually cleared him out like one time. And, it's just like, I think the one round he like ran out the stairs while someone was behind him, and he just put those guys in a spin cycle. I mean, it, kind of sums up the whole day for LSR. So close, but yet 10,000 miles away. I would have loved to have seen, in terms of Crow asked the question, what could they have done differently? I mean, good googly moogly, maybe bring a shield or something. Bring a Monty. Maybe it was those. I don't even know. It just seemed like something like that could have sped things up. But otherwise, it's clear that they need to go back to the drawing board. And clearly they're in a transitional state compared to a team like One Shot. And Connor, you may have said they're a top 6 team. We have to maybe reconsider if they're the contending team at this point in their development. And that's really depressing to say, but it's the truth.
It's early, Connor, but I mean, out of these first 2 matchups, we've seen them both on bank. Are we seeing a comparison here? Are we looking at, Rent Free and One Shot thinking, are they kind of carving a path for themselves early on?
They might just be, and considering we still saw an LG pull it close, and arguably you got to say that they should have won the game, because, you have a 6-2 lead and then that gets blown. A little bit rough, but especially on the side of One Shot, having the strength and having the sort of carry factor come on your support players. You have your Prod and Kilo, who should not be top fragging, but hey, the way that LSR was playing was so incredibly slow that there were still about 4 of their attackers just sprinting into the bomb site with 10 seconds left. That became easy pickings for players like Prod and Kilo to sit there, let the shotgun eat up, especially Prod powered up on the AUG like he always is on Cade. It's just easy, makes sense.
I believe we have the interviewee ready here, and it's a guy we're familiar with. It's Swaylin from One Shot. Feels like it's been too long, Swaylin. We haven't talked enough lately. I mean, big wins against big teams so far this weekend. Your confidence has got to be an all-time high. I don't want to get too far ahead, but do you guys figure that this is putting you into the conversation of team to beat in this league?
Yeah, I guess, you could say that for some of the other teams. They might look at it like that. For us, it's just, another game. And then next week, it's like kind of our focus now. We won these ones, and now it's just right back to work tomorrow and then focusing on the next ones.
Now, I know you can't speak for the team that you play against too much, but does this feel like a game where you had a team where you guys all seemed to know your roles and had it figured out, playing against a team that kind of didn't really fit the mold of what their roles should be?
I don't know. We don't really focus like too much on the other teams. I mean, like we
Mhm.
know how they play. They've always been like a super consistent team, but we know that they're pretty slow. So, obviously we just know that like if we just kind of sit there, then they're gonna kind of do half the work for us. So, it's kind of like what the game plan was going into the day.
Mhm. And one last thing, I noticed that despite how, dominant this game was 7-2, you guys were actually much behind on the entry kills. Is that actually something that kind of gives you confidence, the fact that you can go down a man early and, it's not the end of the world. You guys can still win rounds. How does that feel?
Obviously, it's pretty good, and we know that like on some of the entries, obviously we're losing them pretty fast. But that's kind of like why we have players like Razor, players like Raw or Prod. They can kind of just come
Mhm.
in and make things happen. And then Kilo too, he was calling things like adaptations for executes and stuff that were really making like the end rounds like really clean for us.
Mhm. Well, thank you for increasing my prediction ratio today. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon, Swaylin.
Thank you.
You mean just yours? Everyone picked them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
this is-
getting to that, but I'm the one talking to him. CJ, stop trying to step on my shoes here, okay? I got this, okay? God, these people trying to steal my job left, right, and
Mhm.
center.
You don't have
Anyways,
to worry about me next game. I'm done after this.
I don't have to
Good.
worry about my shoes being
Good.
stepped
I'm out of
on.
here.
I
Then
just
it's
got
gonna
my
be
roll
Tanner
all,
and
all
it's-
down packed here.
Ugh. Anyways, we are gonna get into the third match of the day, but not before a quick break. When we come back, we'll have Ariel Arise, and they are taking on Unemployment, which would be, TZK.